Hello, my name is Lorenz Hauser, and I'm professor in the School of Aquatic and Fisheries Sciences. I'm a population geneticist, and my group is investigating the impact of climate change on population structure, dispersal, and adaptation in marine species, by both looking backwards and by looking forward. Looking backwards, current distributions of genetically differentiated populations are largely a result of past ice ages. Species retreated as the ice sheet expanded and survived as refugial populations that slowly became different from each other. As the ice sheet retreated, these populations expanded and formed the genetic structure that we see today. Looking forward, we're interested how species react to climate change. We know the species distribution shift north, but do they do that because populations change their range or because of extinctions at the rear end and colonizations at the front end? That is important because in the latter case, we may lose genetic diversity that's important for adaptation to climate change. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, my name is Dan Jaffe. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the work we do relating to air quality, wildfires, and climate change. First, I'm a professor at the UW-Bothell School of STEM. I'm also a professor in the UW-Seattle Department of Atmospheric Sciences. And I want to acknowledge all the students and postdocs and others who work with me on this work. So let's get to it. I want to tell you about 3 projects and kind of areas of focus. First, changes in the global atmosphere from our observations at our long-term observatory at the Mount Bachelor Summit. That's been funded by NSF. We've done a lot of work looking at trends and impacts of smoke on urban ozone and particulate matter in the Western US. That's funded by NOAA. And lately, because of the impacts of smoke, we've gotten very interested in impacts on indoor air and expanded that work to looking at a whole host of pollutants that affect indoor air, including freeways, cooking, and wildfires, and trying to get to actionable solutions. So thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm Gundula Proksch, the director of the Circular City and Living Systems Lab in the College of Built Environments. Our lab focuses on interdisciplinary research that advances urban circularity through the integration of living systems to support sustainable futures of cities that mitigate the impacts of climate change. Our NSF-funded research project City Food investigates the urban integration of aquaponics to reduce food production's carbon, water, and fertilizer footprint. Aquaponics protects food cultivation from adverse climate change impacts. It also offers an alternative protein source while rising water temperatures threaten fisheries. The City Food project is an international consortium. We look for local partners for future research projects.
Have you ever wondered whether invasive species will be the winners under climate change? That's one of the questions we get to explore. I am Jennifer Ruesink, a professor in the biology department on the UW-Seattle campus, and my lab group focuses on field ecology of intertidal mudflats and estuaries. Pacific oysters. They were introduced to Washington a century ago, and they reproduce successfully in only a few places. Otherwise, the water is too cold. We have collaborated with state agencies and citizen science groups to look for climate change signals in oyster data collected over many years for other purposes. We'd love to talk with you about climate change tipping points, interaction of climate change and invasions, and temperature sensitivity of reproductive events.
My name is Mark Sherrill, and I'm a faculty member in the School of Aquatic and Fishery Sciences within the College of the Environment. I'd like to tell you about the impacts of climate change on an at-risk salmon in an urban freshwater ecosystem. Lake Sammamish-Kokanee are a landlocked relative of sockeye salmon. Known as the little red fish to the Snoqualmie tribe, they were once an important traditional food source, not only for families that lived along the shores of the lake, but for distant tribal people as well. Kokanee are now threatened by urbanization, the introduction of other fish species from the eastern United States, and climate change. Temperatures in Lake Sammamish are currently near the optimum for kokanee fitness, but as climate change warms the lake, kokanee will suffer at the expense of introduced species like yellow perch. We are working alongside the Kokanee Work Group, an ad hoc collection of citizens, municipalities, the Snoqualmie tribe, NGOs, and other government agencies. Thank you.
As for heat waves on land, organisms in the ocean experience stress when the surface ocean temperature is well above normal, periods called marine heat waves. These events have caused massive die-offs of seabirds and disruption of the ocean ecosystem. Marine heat waves are becoming more likely as the planet continues to warm. Graduate students Cassia Kai, Jacob Cohen, and former student Hilary Scannell, working alongside data scientists at the eScience Institute and the National Center for Atmospheric Research, have developed and are applying a method for tracking the evolution of marine heat waves in space and time using image processing tools. We find that the largest marine heat wave of the last 2 decades, starting in 2014, also called the blob, lasted more than 4 years and had a global footprint. We plan to integrate this method with seasonal climate prediction systems with the potential for informing coastal communities and fishery managers of the changes to come.
Hi, I'm Joe Thornton, Professor of Atmospheric Sciences at UW. My research is at the intersection of air quality, climate, and analytical instrumentation. And in my group, we study how human activities change the composition of the atmosphere and how these changes interact with and affect climate and ecosystems. We aim to understand the processes that create, grow, and remove tiny particles, known as PM 2.5, through a combination of laboratory studies, field measurements, and computer modeling, while also quantifying the impacts of these particles on the environment. Such particles cause adverse health effects, and they play an outsized role in the climate system by blocking sunlight and acting as the seed for every cloud droplet and thus rain, while also altering the amount of lightning in storms. And yet mysteries still remain as to how the atmosphere creates and regulates the number of these particles at any time and place. We enjoy collaborating with partners in chemistry, biology, engineering, earth and space sciences, and public health to measure, understand, and predict the life cycle and impacts of these particles from molecular to global scales.